Welcome to The Explainer. If you've ever thought about bringing goods into Canada for your business, there's this one giant hurdle that can feel, well, super complicated, reporting it all to the Canada Border Services Agency. Today, we're going to break that down and make it simple. So if you're a new importer, maybe an entrepreneur, just starting out, or a small business owner, you know that feeling of just staring at all the customs rules? It's a lot. It really feels like one wrong move could jam up your entire shipment at the border. But it doesn't have to be that way. What if you had a clear, simple roadmap to help you avoid all those costly delays? Well, that's exactly what we're going to build for you today. Let's get right into it. We're essentially going to follow a shipment's entire life. We'll start with who's even involved before the journey kicks off. Then we'll talk about how you actually announce your goods to Canada. We'll look at the difference between paper and digital reporting, understand this really crucial pre-arrival security step, and finally, see what happens when your stuff actually gets to the border and what comes after. Okay, so every successful import starts way before your goods are even packed up and ready to go. And the very first step, it's knowing exactly who you're dealing with. Now look, at first glance, this might seem like just basic logistics, right? But here's why it is absolutely critical. Knowing who to call when a product is faulty versus when a shipment goes missing can save you days of delays and a ton of frustration. So this isn't just some flowchart. Think of it as your cheat sheet for solving problems, and fast.
All right, so you've dealt with your vendor, you've got your shipper lined up, and your goods are officially on their way. Now comes that first big official hurdle, reporting everything to the Canada Border Services Agency. You'll hear it called the CBSA.
And this is way more than just filling out some forms. It's a mandatory announcement that basically gives the CBSA a heads up. It lets them assess any potential risks and make sure your goods can cross the border as smoothly as possible.
So when you announce your shipment the right way, you're not just ticking a legal box. You're actually helping officials manage risk and keep the border moving efficiently, which, at the end of the day, gets your goods to you faster and with a lot fewer headaches. Now, the carrier who's actually handling your shipment, whether it's on a truck, a plane, or a ship, they have two main ways to make that announcement. Let's take a look at the old school way versus the new school way.
Okay, think of the Cargo Control Document, or CCD, as the traditional physical passport for your goods. It's a paper form, the official name is AA, and it's got a barcode for tracking. You'll definitely still see these used, especially by smaller carriers, or maybe as a backup if the digital systems ever go down. And then there's EDI, or Electronic Data Interchange. This is the modern digital way to do things. With EDI, carriers send all the information directly from their computer to the CBSA's system. It's way faster, it's more secure, and it gets rid of the paper trail completely. And when you put them side by side, the difference is, well, it's pretty stark. While paper still has its place for maybe small, infrequent shipments, the speed and reliability of EDI is exactly why it's the standard for pretty much any high-volume importer. It just means fewer errors and much faster processing.
But in today's world, that announcement has to happen even earlier in the journey. Reporting isn't just something you do when you show up at the border anymore. This is all done through a system called Advanced Commercial Information, or ACI, often just called e-manifest. Just think of it as a mandatory digital heads-up that gives the CBSA a chance to screen for security threats long before a truck, ship, or plane ever gets close to Canadian soil. And this timeline really shows you why e-manifest was even created. After 9/11, security totally shifted from being reactive, screening things as they arrived at the border, to being proactive, using advanced data to assess risk long before arrival. It brought Canada right in line with international security standards. So, your shipment has been announced, it's been pre-screened, all the digital work is done. What actually happens when it finally arrives in Canada?
Well, when your shipment gets here, the first thing officials look at is its value. And that 3,300 Canadian dollar mark, that's the key number. If your goods are valued below it, they'll often come right to your door with a simple form for the taxes. But for anything above that, it triggers a much more formal customs process. And that's usually where a customs broker gets involved.
And it's really important to remember this. Even if you do everything perfectly, the CBSA can still choose to inspect any shipment to make sure everything is compliant. They might, for example, check to make sure your leather handbags aren't actually made from an endangered species. It might cause a small delay, but it's absolutely vital for protecting Canadian consumers.
So what happens if you don't follow the rules? Well, the consequences can be immediate and pretty costly. It's all handled by the Administrative Monetary Penalty System, or AMPS. This is how the CBSA ensures everyone is playing by the rules. So for something as simple as failing to report your goods, a first offense can cost you $500 right out of the gate. And as you can see, those penalties escalate fast, which means a single mistake can become a serious blow to your bottom line.
So there you have it. The process from the vendor all the way to your doorstep is actually pretty clear once you break it down. But, as global supply chains get more and more complex and these digital systems become mandatory, the real question isn't just whether you can follow today's rules. It's whether your business is agile enough to adapt to whatever comes tomorrow. So, is your next shipment really ready for the journey ahead?